Welcome back po. Welcome again to LIRA in Law. We are, of course, on every Thursday, 7:30 po, and we're broadcasting live from London, England. So we'll be discussing all sorts of legal topics. But ang pag-usapan po natin ngayon, of course, is the adult dependent relative route. Again, it's a massive topic and usually one that confuses nga people. Sometimes may mga tao din nagpapayo nga sila na walang problema, ganyan makukuha ng mga bata, and that's not necessarily nga the case, unfortunately. So itong pag-usapan po natin ngayon, it is, as I say, a big topic and one that I think is a problem or has often been an issue with a lot of people, and has caused really, not just legal concerns, but also has caused quite a lot of difficulties. Kaya pagka nagpasok nga kayo ng application, kung ano yung pasok nyo, then of course that goes on your record. So kung meron kayong refusal, then that may prejudice any future applications that you then likely to make. So pag-uusapan po natin ngayon, dependent visas, but specifically nga adult dependent relative visas. Okay? So look, without further ado, as I say, broadcasting directly from London, England, LIRA in Law, ang pag-uusapan po natin ngayon, adult dependent relative application. So, brief background, just very brief nga lang, no? First, adult dependent relative route, that's been in existence for a little while, no? Pero pinalitan nilang kaunti, pero kaunti lang naman on the 1st of June 2023. So actually, less than a year ago. So they really didn't really make massive changes nga to it. It's always been difficult since 2012, and what they did try to do, and I think to some extent na they were able to achieve it, is a bit of a simplification, sabi nga nila, of the rule. So ano bang ibig sabihin? What is it? Now let me just read to you a very brief a description. Actually, this is from the immigration rules mismo. So what is it? It's a category under the immigration rules that provide a route for, and galing to sa immigration rules, let me read that to you, for a person aged 18 or over who is sponsored by a relative in the United Kingdom, who must be British, settled in the UK, have protection status, or be a specified EEA national who has permission under Appendix EU, basically EU national nga. And where the sponsor is able to maintain, accommodate, and care for the applicant without reliance on public funds. Galing yun po yun sa immigration rules. Now, confused? I'm not surprised, because and also it's not even it also doesn't really give you enough yung description na yun. It's actually much more, or rather the requirements are much more than that. And so the subsequent paragraphs nga go on a little bit more about anong ibig sabihin. Now, you can, like most immigration rules, you can talk about a rule and its applicability nga to the facts, to different facts. Iba-iba nga, of course, mga kaso, no? So, let's look at the most common scenario nga na I come across. So, usually, ang istorya ang sitwasyon nga yung magulang nandito. Parent has been living in the United Kingdom for several years. And usually nga, parents who come into the UK, they work, they work very hard actually, nagsasakripisyo nga sila, so meron man sila mapapadala sa atin, and so para sa mga bata, for example, para pwede sila mag-aral nga, o so mas maganda nga ang buhay, and now finally after several years, yung magulang nga already has settlement status in the UK, either indefinite leave to remain, or indeed British passport na, naturalized na nga sila. And they now wish to apply for their children to join them in the United Kingdom. Okay? Problema nga lang, overage na yung bata, o yung mga bata, over the age of 18. Now, what can they do? So most of the inquiries nga I have is that ang kliyente ko, well, okay, nandito nga sila, as I say, matagal na sila dito, meron na silang pera, meron na silang accommodation, gusto na kuning bata. Edad over 18 na nga. Yun ang pag-uusapan po natin ngayon. Okay. So, unang-una, can you apply? No? Pwede ba kayo magpasok ng application? Now, as with a lot of immigration applications, ang unang kailangan yung tignan is, are you one of the people who would qualify? No? Who can make an application? Are you one of the categories of people who can make the application? So, yung tignan muna natin yon. So, not everyone can apply. So, for example, kung ang gusto nyong kunin sabihin natin kayo auntie kayo, okay? Tita kayo, tito kayo, o kaya pinsan, no? O goddaughter, godson, no? Kahit nga pamilyang trato sa iyo, doesn't mean that you can make an application nga under the adult dependent relative route. So, in fact, you can't because they specify certain family connection. So, unang-una po, parent, magulang nyo, no? Grandparents, lola, lolo, son or daughter, kayo, yung pinag-uusapan nga natin, o indeed, brother and sister. So, kung nandito nga kayo, kung gusto nyo kunin yung kapatid nyo nga nasa atin, potentially that's a possibility. But the most common nga situations na I come across is for children over the age of 18. So, sabihin natin, gusto nyo kunin yung anak nyo nasa atin nga, o gusto nyo samahan nga dito yung magulang nyo nasa Pilipinas nga kayo. So, now, kung anak nga kayo, you will satisfy the first condition. Are you a relative? No, are you a family member, if you like? But ang definition relative. Are you relative for the purposes of the adult dependent relative route? The answer is yes. Okay, so at least we tick one box. Problema nga lang the other boxes, the other conditions, and this is where sometimes nga mga tao, no, ang payo nga sa kanila, walang problema, anak mo siya, makuha mo nga siya dito. And that usually means, unfortunately, no, disappointment, no? So, and as I say, kung magpasok nga kayong application, as far as you can, no, siguraduhin nyo na meron nga kayong, meron kayong grounds, no, na meron kayong makukuha nga, no, that it's a real possibility. You should never make applications that are never going to happen, no, because sayang nga lang pera nyo. But more importantly, then you create a background. You don't want that. So, your relative, anak kayo, you want to come into the United Kingdom, yung nga lang over 18 kayo. Great, box tick, no? Now, ano pa kailangan yung pakita? I'll zoom through some of the requirements nga because most of them may not necessarily be an issue. Actually, my experience is they're not really issues. There's one that's particularly problematic, pero I'll deal with that the last point, no? Now, validity requirements. It just means, it's just legal speak for you paid the fee, no? Kailangan yung magbayad ng fee. And of course, you need to complete the right form. Yeah. So, for forms, for those coming into the United Kingdom, the application you need to submit is the one that says join or accompany family member in the United Kingdom. That's the one, no? When you go the online application. So it just means paying the right fee and, as I say, completing the right form. That is the validity requirement. Yeah. Now there are other things nga kailangan mo din for the validity. You need to also be able to show nga that you've done the tuberculosis test. Pag-usapan natin yung mamaya. Suitability grounds. Again, not usually a problem that I come across. Suitability just means, it often means good character. Na wala nga kayong ginawa sa Pilipinas, o nasa Pilipinas nga kayo, that causes of concern, criminal matters, for example, no? O immigration background, no? So, kung meron kayong immigration background nga dito, umuwi kayo sa atin, then that may in itself cause you a problem. So, suitability requirements. But again, as I say, usually hindi yung problema sa mga kalyante ko. Now, entry requirements, no? As I was saying before, the tuberculosis test. Dahil kung makakuha nga, itong application na ipapasok nyo, over 6 months ang visa kukunin nyo. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan nyo itong TB, tuberculosis certificate. Now, careful ha, may isang, there's only one clinic, I think still one clinic nga sa Pilipinas who can issue a valid TB certificate. So, kung meron kayong doktor sa atin, hospital nga malapit sa inyo, it doesn't mean they won't be accepted. So you need actually this designated clinic, no, that issues you nga with the TB certificate. And then, of course, financial requirement. Pag-usapan din natin yun. Now, unlike, say, spouses, no, especially spouses nga ngayon, the spousal route has been very controversial of late. Dahil magbabago nga yung income requirement. Now, ito, the adult dependent route, there's no specific income requirement. So, hindi mo kailangan pakita nga necessarily na 38,000 ka o 18,600 ka. But you still need to satisfy the income requirement. Kailangan yung pakita o kailangan pakita ng sponsor nyo na pagka nandito na kayo, sapat ang pera nila. And now, that they will have, there will be a sufficient financial support. Now, ibig sabihin, din nun, meron kayong titirhan dito. And you're not going to be receiving public funds. Okay? Now, it also means that they're quite keen on that you're not going to be reliant on public funds. Yung sponsor nyo would need to provide an undertaking, a maintenance undertaking. Pangako, no? Pangako nga nila na during the time that you get the visa, which is usually nga 5 years, for the next 5 years nga, you're not going to be reliant on public funds. Okay? And if you become reliant on public funds, then the government can ask for that money back, no, from your sponsor. Dahil nagpangako nga sila, pagka nandito na kayo, yung hindi nga kayo kukuha ng pera gaan sa gobyerno. Okay? So it is quite it is a legally binding promise. So financial requirement nga. Now, so you have all of those, no? So anak nga kayo. You tick box 1. Your validity requirements, nagpasok na kayo ng application, nagbayad kayong sapat, no? Suitability, wala kayo, good character nga kayo. Entry requirements, meron nga akong TB certificate, no? Financial requirement, yung sponsor nyo, sapat ang pera niya, meron din kayong titirhan nga dito. What else? And this is where really it becomes more difficult. I would say 90%, no, maybe higher than that, no, of applications are in fact refused on this next requirement, and that is the dependency requirement for adult dependent relatives. Now, it's because this is the most problematic. Let me just read to you a little bit nga about what's required. Okay, it's very confusing also. So tignan nga natin. So it's contained under this adult dependent route, adult dependent relative route, no, appendix 5.1, if you care to look for it. Ang sabi po dito, the applicant, no, or if the applicant is applying as a partner or grandparent, the applicant's partner must, as a result of age, illness, or disability, require long-term personal care to perform everyday tasks. Yun ang una. Pangalawa, ADR 5.2, yeah, for the application for entry clearance, the applicant is applying must be unable to obtain the required level of care in the country where they are living, even with the financial help of the sponsor, because either the care is not available or there's no person in that country who can reasonably provide it, or the care is not affordable. Now, ang dami nga nun. So let's just have a look at it. So what it boils down to is merong ang sakit, for example, yung anak nyo, kung kayong magulang nga nandito, no, meron kayong sakit nga sa atin na hindi na kailangan yung kailangan yung alaga, basically. So you're looking really, itong adult dependent, the dependency requirement is more to do with kung may sakit nga yung bata and you need to take them to the UK, so kailangan kayo mag-alaga. At saka walang tao sa atin na pwede nga mag-alaga sa bata. No? Well, I say bata, of course, adult na nga sila. So this is why the adult dependent route is more often than not used really for elderly parents or elderly grandparents na kailangan nyo silang alagaan nga dito. So it's not, this is why ito po, this requirement nga is the reason why a lot of adult dependent children, no, are refused under this route. It's not, hindi naman po imposible. Certainly, I've had cases where applications have been granted nga because under this route for children or adult children. But we've had to really be very careful, be very thorough, no, evidence, and usually it means medical evidence. Importante po yung medical evidence nyo. Dahil kung sasabihin nyo, kailangan nandito siya dahil wala nga mag-aalaga sa atin o kaya napakamahal ng ng medical assistance nga sa atin, hindi nyo kaya, all of those, you need to be able to back it up. No? Hindi lang nasasabihin nyo, kailangan nyo nga ebidensya. That usually means a doctor's report or hospital nga, or even country reports, no? Kung kailangan nyo nga ng institution sa atin, wala naman, no? So that's really the reason why. That's why oftentimes may mga taong may mga kong kliyente sabi na sa akin, pero ang payo sa akin nga dati, hindi problema, we take all those boxes. But the most important box, no, the most important requirement is then left out. E yun po, yung dependency. Now, if you cannot satisfy that route, the dependency route, in relation to, say medical concerns nga, is that the end of it, or is there something else that you can do? Now, kung interesado kayo, you can have a look nga at another section of the appendix, no? So it's ADR 7.1. Now, so after that, so if there are, it's called human rights argument. So within the adult dependent route is built in for the caseworker nga to look at human rights. Basically, Article 8, right to family. So kailangan yung pakita that to refuse the application would lead to what they call unjustifiably harsh consequences. Okay? So, but again, hindi nga lang na, matagal na kayong hindi nagsasama, they really do mean, unjustifiably harsh. And sometimes that's very similar nga to what's often called exceptional circumstances. So, but it's unjustifiably harsh. They really mean unjustifiably harsh, no? So, sabihin natin, merong ang problema medically, say mental health issues nga, it falls short of the need for daily care, for example. But it may fall within this section 7, ADR 7.1. So it could be that you can make an argument nga under that. If you can't, then that would mean that it's likely ma-refuse application nyo. Now, it's as important to be able to see kung meron kayong magagawa, no? May talagang paraan ito rather than making an application. That's why even though the route may not be as may be quite difficult to establish, importante pa rin na alam nyo. Because it could be na meron kayong ibang paraan, no? So for example nga, estudyante siya, gusto niya mag-aral nga dito, o kaya gusto niya magtrabaho, meron siyang qualification. So you may want to concentrate nga on other routes rather than this one, no? Now, sabihin natin, as I say, mahirap nga ito, it's very challenging as an application, but hindi naman imposible, no? So if you do get it, no, so magpasok kayo ng application nga, galing kayo sa Pilipinas, gusto nyo pumasok, nakuha nyo, anong bibigay sa inyo? Ang bibigay sa inyo, or what they should give to you, is indefinite leave to remain, settlement status immediately. Okay, so which is great, because obviously you would then be able to stay in the United Kingdom indefinitely. Okay? So it's actually a great visa to have if you can get it. But it doesn't mean that, as I say, it does not absolve your sponsor from the maintenance undertaking. Kailangan pa rin nilang gawin yon. And that is in play for 5 years from the date nga of the visa. So, but kung makuha nyo nga, as I say, it would be great because then you have settlement status in the UK immediately. But it usually also means that meron nga kayong sakit. No? So, for those of you po na tinitingnan, you're looking at this, adult dependent relative, and you are seriously considering this route that meron nga kayong anak nasa Pilipinas. Pero kung wala naman silang sakit, okay naman sila sa atin, maganda naman ang buhay nga doon, no? Nag-aaral sila o may trabaho nga sila, yung nga lang, overage na sila, gusto mo silang kunin, then this may not actually be the right route. No? And as I say, it's important to know that it's not the right route as it is to know that it is the right route. No? So choose the right application, because otherwise, kung may refusal nga kayo, then it could be that it causes you more of a problem nga later on. Okay, but as I say, hindi naman posible. So if you want to, if you think your facts fit it, then you should certainly have a look. But this is one of the few applications that I would say you should really get legal advice. That it's one that is so difficult to establish. So it's but nevertheless, it's, as I say, it's not impossible. It's just absolutely not difficult. Okay. Now, I hope that you enjoyed that. It's quite a big topic, so it can be quite a depressing topic. So I'm sorry to start out with that, but I've had so many inquiries about this topic, so I thought, okay, pag-usapan nga natin yun. Now, okay, so